What's up, guys? This is Jeff, back for another episode of online Cubase tutorials. In this tutorial, we are going to clean up our mix, clean up our song, clean up our patches, do some final mixing, adding some automation, and get this ready for a final mix down and mastering. So one of the drawbacks to using a sidechain compressor is if you listen here across this little drop, what you'll hear is the sound it sounds like the volume increases across this path. So I'm going to play it and you'll see what I think you'll see what I'm talking about. You definitely have to listen on headphones. So it's kind of subtle, but the reason that happens is because the way sidechain compressor works is by dampening the sound. So we have this kick is being sent to all these sidechain compressors to make that swell sound. So instead of actually breaking that sound down to a drop using MIDI, I'm going to use volume automation on the kick part. And you have to zoom in here to get this to work. But basically what I want to do is mix the volume of the kick down to nothing right here and then back up to 0. So essentially what you see is, if I can get this working right, that's better. So now because I have this sent to post fader, it's going to send the send is going to send this kick drum sound to the sidechain compressor on all these patches, but we're just taking out the kick drum from the mix. So the difference is that it will continue to mute the other parts, but we're not going to hear this kick drum sound. That sounds a little bit better. And I think we should put a little bit more of a drop in there. Maybe not. It's a subtle change, but I just wanted to get that in there. And then the same thing, we might want to do that same thing in this drop, but we're playing the kick in here. We might want to take that out. Let's see what happens if we do that. See if we like it. So again, we're going to mix that completely down and back up. I like that a lot better. Sounds pretty good. All right, so when we're getting ready to clean up our song and finish it up and get it to mastering, one of the things I like to do is now that we have our song mixed out, I'm going to change the length of the whole project. So you can see I've got 81 bars here. And if you go to project, setup, you can actually change the start and the length by seconds and frames. So you can't enter bars and beats in that spot for some reason. So if you change here, whoops, where do we do that? We do it here. It's not bars and beats if we just want seconds. So This is a shorter track. It's fine for the demo, but 2 minutes and 30 seconds. 2 minutes 30 seconds. So we can go in here to our project setup and set it to a length of 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And whoops! And now our project ends right here, where our visible area of our track. Save that. All right, and next, set this back to 16th notes. I'm going to talk about the batch export feature. This is a really fast way to make stems. And so you can see, I'm going to go back here to bars and beats and zoom in here. We can see this particular 2-bar phrase has pretty much all the parts of the song in it that we care about, except for this synth part that starts out here. Let's actually go and look up here, and we can zoom smaller this way, and zoom a little bit smaller this way, fit everything in there. So yeah, this is a good spot to demo this feature. So what I want to do is I want to export all of these MIDI parts to audio. And the reason why is just because for posterity, for the future, let's say my computer crashes and I decide not to use Cubase anymore, I wouldn't probably do that, but let's say you have a friend who has Fruity Loop Studios or Ableton, and they want to remix your song, you're going to want to export stems. So there's different ways you can do that. You can do it for the whole song, but I like to do small parts at first, and you'll see why in just a minute here. But you can bring up the export audio mixdown dialog box, and you can see what it gives you is the ability for you to export all of your independent tracks. And that includes the stereo out, and the group channels, FX channels, VST instrument channels, and audio channels. And you can do everything. You know, you can basically select every single channel all at once. And that's usually what I do. And it's going to use this amount of the project that we have set. So this is just a 2-bar phrase. So what I like to do is the first thing I'm going to do is make sure I'm set to my demo folder. You can see I already have some stems in there. That's okay. And then you go into the naming scheme and you can put the name, you can put the channel name. So you can see here synth, I don't know why it would say dot wave right there. Stereo out, synth wave. It's giving you that example. So it'll resolve any naming conflicts. So for the synth part that we already have in there, it's going to go probably override it. So we don't want that. So we want to always ask as a good thing not to overwrite any other things that you have. And you can import anything that you export, you can import back into the project. So or create a new project. So if you have all this stuff in MIDI, you can use this thing to export everything as audio and import it into a new project. And then, so that's a really good way to keep your project separated. If you create with MIDI and then you mix down with audio. It's kind of a good rule of thumb. But you also share online or share with your friends, other DJs who might want to remix your stuff. This is how you build stems. And this project, I've been using these settings, 44.1, 24-bit for the master audio files. And that's set in the project settings. So I'm going to make a new folder here and put stems. So I'm going to import this back. I'm not going to import into an audio track. I'm going to make those by hand. But you can see here, so this is all the settings that we need to export our whole entire thing here. Now, what's interesting is you can't really rename these. Here, what you can do is, I'm just going to cancel this for a minute and go back here and just clean up this just a little bit. I'm just going to remove this 2 here. I got a master 2 here. I'm going to put Groove Agent 2 master. This is Groove Agent master. Save that. That looks a little bit better. I forgot to colorize this guy in the last video. All right, let's save that. Let's go back into audio export and double check that again. Okay, I think one more I'd like to change is this Vacuum Pro X64. That's right here. Another thing you can do is you can actually go and look at the patches that you're actually using. So for Retrolog, this first one, it's Black Paw. So this, instead of this here, we might want to actually, I have it called bass audio, which is fine. For this prologue part, it's actually the init patch, but it's like a sawtooth. So we could call this simple saw. The audio here. This Retrolog is the noise sweep. All right, so now we're going to get some better sounds. What is the sound here? The Vacuum Pro. Did I have this turned off? So I guess it's super smooth lead, and it looks like it's turned off. Let's actually turn that back on and see what that sounds like. Let's do select all and unmute that and see. Now it's making sense. So that's actually the right. That's this right here, synth. So you can see keeping your projects really organized helps a lot, because I kind of lost track of what that was, and we don't need this. This can be muted again. So we'll mute these parts out, because we don't want the MIDI playing and the audio playing. But I called it bounce fifth here. We could actually go into the Vacuum Pro and see what this is, what sound this is. I don't even see what patch is this named. I guess it's, yeah, super smooth lead. So we can just leave that. We'll call it super smooth lead. And that's actually the audio from this part. And what we can do is super smooth lead audio. So the super smooth lead is the MIDI track, the audio generated by the MIDI VST, if that makes sense. So this way we'll be able to identify this more easily in the export window. All right. So saving this. So this is what I mean when I say clean up. It's like you just want to make sure that you set yourself up for easily being able to get back into this track. If you decide you listen, you print this, you listen to it in your car, and you're like, I really want to remix this. 2 weeks later, 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, you realize you want to remix this thing. Makes it much easier for you to tell, where everything's located. Later on when you come back to it. All right, so back to what we're doing. We're going to go back to export audio mixdown. Now you can see everything's named nice and neat. The super smooth lead MIDI we don't actually need, because there's nothing happening on that track. We already rendered that out to this super smooth lead audio. For the rest of this, I think we might get some empty parts, but this gives you a good selection of everything, as well as a reference track of how that's all going to sound when it comes together, of the stereo out. So, and we're going to export that to the stems folder. and as WAV files, 44.1, 24-bit, import it back into the pool, and then close window after export. Oh, interesting. This is it's rare that you get this dialog, but please change your naming scheme as it doesn't provide unique names. So what I do in that case is I'll just come in here and just put the channel number. After the name. And separator is a minus. You can see a counter. We could also use a counter. It's another way you can do it. Let's see if that'll work. So now we do have, it's weird when you get a couple dashes like that. So instead of the channel number, let's put a counter in there. Synth out 03. Okay, cool. So now that should work. All right, I went to take a drink. That was really fast. Now let's look at the pool. Open pool window, stems, and you can see here's all of that audio got rendered out into individual stems. And the cool part about this now is, sorry about that, I tend to like to keep all the audio and the MIDI all in the same project. You might choose to put that into a different project altogether, but in this case, I think it's handy just to have this here and have it, included with the same project. But what you can do is you can use the mix that we've got, and you can basically create a new audio track for every one of your tracks. And I don't know why it doesn't pop right in where I wanted it. I just always habitually click on that track. But so now that there's an audio track for that kick, we can go to the pool window and find a kick. And now what's interesting is I kind of blew that because I've only got 7 kicks. Oh wait, do I? Maybe it's right. Let's see. So take that kick and you can put that right in the audio track. No, that's fine. And by doing that, now I have a representation of this MIDI in audio. And you can basically rebuild using this as a template. You can select all the events and mute, and then we're going to rebuild this whole kick track using audio instead. And this can be super time consuming if you have a lot of stuff going, but I found it's really the only way, unfortunately, it's the only way to really guarantee that at some future date, you'll be able to play this project. We're burning all of the MIDI data to audio. And it sounds exactly the same. If I mute this, unmute this, if I unmute and I mute, where is it? Right, so you won't hear any difference. MIDI versus audio. Whoops, it's muted. Sorry about that. Alright, so it's maybe a tad bit louder, but we can work on that in the mix. But this is just you can trust me. You don't have to do this. You can export the whole entire track. You can just save those stems in your in the folder. You've got them. This is a good thing to back up. Make a zip file of this whole project and put it on Amazon S3 or upload it to your Google Cloud account as a backup, offsite backup, and you can pretty much recreate your whole project in any DAW that you use in the future. If you want to, load this onto your laptop and put it in a, traveling, workstation. If you got a laptop with a different version of Cubase, let's say, you don't have all the same plugins installed, or you have a different, Reaper on your laptop, you can bring all these stems into Reaper and mess around with it on the road. So it's just a good way to do it. So I'm actually going to remove this track. I'm not going to do the whole entire project because it'll take forever. And you guys just want to see the next step. So you can imagine if I had done that, then all of my audio here, all the MIDI data would be muted. All the audio data would be replacing it. But in this case, for the purposes of the demo, I'm just going to do the next final step, which is to basically call this project complete and do a final export, audio mix down. And I'm going to not do any batch export. I'm just going to output the stereo, the main stereo out, 44.1, 24-bit. I'm not going to output it here. Naming scheme, I'm just going to call it, name. And I'm going to put the name in here and call this Cubase demo 4424.wave. And I'm not going to put it to the stems. I'm going to put it to the mix downs. Whoops, I forgot one thing. The one important thing that I forgot is you have to set your in and out points of what you're exporting. So now I'm just going to go ahead and do that again. Same thing is already set here. And it should ask me to confirm I want to overwrite. And I'm just going to go ahead and overwrite. And now you'll see this will take a little bit longer because it's rendering the whole entire track. All right, I'm going to save that, close this, and make a new project. And I'm going to call it, I'm going to make a new folder here, Cubase Demo Master. And if you notice, there's a mastering template. You're welcome to try that one. In this case, I'm just going to do an empty project. Cubase Demo Master, yep. Okay, well now I just have one stereo out. That's fine. I'm going to import audio file. You can do it here, import audio, or you can go to the media pool window and import. And I'm going to import that Cubase demo mixdown that I just exported. Okay. And this is really strange. I've noticed this where even though my project was 128, it says the tempo is 120. So I'm actually going to delete this out of here. Remove my unused media. Okay, and I'm going to set this to 128 because that's what my project was. And if you remember, in the project settings, project setup, it was 2 minutes and 30 seconds, right? So let's go back here. We'll do this again. We'll do it from the pool, import, and it still says 120 here. So I'm going to put 128. This is one of the weird things that I don't really know why Cubase doesn't know what tempo was set when it was exported from the same tool. But anyways, go ahead and should be able to drop that in here. I don't know why it's not letting me drop it. Oh, because this is the actual output. I need to add an audio track. So just call this demo mix. All right, so now we have, and actually I probably can use a smaller window here and show the mixing console a little bit. And so now if I go to the pool window, I should be able to drag this here. Okay. So there's my track, and you can see there's plenty of room for mastering. Let's go ahead and, listen to this part where the sweep is. All right. So now if you have just only bought Cubase and you don't have any mastering plugins, actually this doesn't need to be like this. Let's change this around a little bit. We'll put this like so, and then we can see the whole console here. Okay, so if you don't have a mastering plugin, chances are you're going to use the built-in mastering compressor built into Cubase. So you can see there's mastering, and I have Ozone 7 from Isotope. So I really recommend this Ozone. It's a really good plugin for mastering. I believe they call it Dynamics, and it's the VST. There's a let's just look for mastering. I thought there was a mastering compressor in here. It's VST Dynamics is what they call it. Right, so VST Dynamics is kind of built in from Cubase as one of the final tools in your arsenal. And you can see here, I think one of the presets in here was master. Could be wrong. I guess I can think of something else. Let me try a different one here. Whoops. Mastering, no, because these are, I don't know what UV22 is, but Solid Dynamics. What's that one? How about Supercharger? Is that from Native Instruments? Yep. This is a good one. Just play this here. And crank up the gain a little bit. And you can easily hear this with a bypass. See the difference pretty easily. So just a single supercharger plugin. There's probably some presets in here. These are definitely used for a single channel most of the time, but that's a good one that you can use for, to give your track a nice master quality. There's another one from let's just try the built-in one. can't remember the chain I've done before, but we can just try a few. Do an expander. So this is gain reduction, your output. So I don't know if you can hear that, but just doing an expander and a maximizer, and then I think the very last one I would do is a VST dynamics, and just put a limiter on there at the very end. Or you can do a brick wall limiter. It's a very, you can use if you use the VST dynamics, you can put a compressor on the whole thing. And I usually just do auto and just see how that sounds. Having a limiter, and then you can see here the threshold, you can bring that down. The interface is a little bit confusing, quite honestly, but with those three things on there, and the other thing too is a lot of people will have you put these on like as sends. There's nothing wrong with doing that either, but you can easily just, for a track that you only have mastering going on, it doesn't hurt just to put these right on the same track. But if we turn these off, you can hear the difference. If we go, rewind this and play it. So the idea is we're expanding it in the stereo field, maximizing the volume, and then making sure we don't break with the limiting at the very end. Crank this a little bit down even more. You can see that's too much. You can also put some broad EQ on here really easily if you wanted to, make this ready for MP3. Kind of like rolling off the lows and the highs. So it really just an easy way to do it. And this is going to be a little bit much right here. Let me crank this down a little bit. All right, so something like this, just like a nice slight mid boost, trim off some of the very high end. Make this a little bit more steep. I'm just dragging the scroll wheel a little bit. You can play around with these, but between those three built-in plugins, I mean, listen to the difference. If we can do this all at once. We can bypass all at once. So just listen, and I'll turn this on and off. So that's really all mastering is just taking your final track that was built at around -6 dB and making it hit as close to 0 as you can. That's all Ozone does. It just gives you some presets for these different things, so you can save yourself $300. You don't really need Ozone. You just need to know how to use the built-in mastering effects and put some EQ on there, maybe a little bit higher mids. Make it a little punchier. Maybe raise this up to like up here, or maybe a little bit higher here, and a little bit more around 2200. That sounds pretty good. I have some pretty good headphones on. It's sounding like a pretty radio ready mix. So that's really the only process for mastering. Let's go ahead and export that. And it's not going to be in the demo folder. It's going to be in the masters now. And we can say mix downs and Cubase demo. I usually put MD, do a 24 bit version, and I usually name it 44 kilohertz 24 bit mix down. So we'll export that one. And then we'll do another one that's 16 bit. So this will be CD quality. So 4416 mix down. And then usually what I do is one more. I'll do a audio mix down to where is it? To an MP3. And I usually do the 256 44 in high quality mode. And you can edit your ID3 tag. We can call this Cubase artist. Is going to be online Cubase tutorials. Track number 1, 2019. And this is Hero Dance. I don't even know what that is. We'll just call it Trance. We'll see if that's in here. I think it is. Yep. Comment. I almost never fill this out. So there's your ID3 tag. We're going to export an MD 4416.mp3. And I never do any post-processing, but if you have a SoundCloud account, you can upload directly to SoundCloud right from Cubase export. It's pretty cool. And the MP3 export does take a little bit longer. All right, so that's pretty much it. Now, what we can do is we can minimize this, and we can go into Audacity and just look at the difference. And I have this set for 2 monitors here, but if I open this original, it's going to be from the Cubase demo mixdown, the original. And then we open up from the master, the mixdown. Whoops. So the MD 24-bit wave, let's look at that. Right? So you can tell, you know, using Audacity, you can just look at the difference after mastering. So we're not peaking anywhere, we're not clipping anywhere, and we maximized our volume. You can see these drops fall right where we want. It's nice and silent. And one of the things you may want to do, and I like Audacity just because it's free and it's quick and it's easy. But you can trim off the silence, and I usually play it in here just to make sure. Yeah, about right here. So you can trim that off really easily in Audacity. So you can save or export that rather. So now you can see we pretty much have a completely optimized track, and I really hope that this tutorial series has helped you guys. Really appreciate your watching and sharing it to anyone that is trying to learn Cubase, and can't wait to do more. I'm gonna finish this training series and upload it, and I'm gonna just start on the next one because there's so much more to learn in Cubase. So again, thanks for watching, sticking with me through all of these episodes, and look forward to seeing your feedbacks and comments.